Barr. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. So I I wanted to tell you I was listening to a John Mayer song, uh, slow dancing in a burning room, and then your song came on. You guys kind of sound alike. Does anybody you kind of have like a John Mayer type? Not like do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's understandable. I kind of grew up in a rock and roll family. My mom's a country girl. My dad is a rocker, right? My dad plays drums, and my dad grew up in the city. He grew up in Phoenix, so my mom's a small town girl, and my dad ended up moving to Payson, where I grew up in Arizona. But I remember just falling in love with like blues really young and country because it was dad was listening to Clapton or Cream, um, or Aerosmith, or Led Zeppelin, and then mom was always listening to country, in the golden era of country, in my opinion, the '90s, just awesome bands, um, my favorite guitar player growing up, well, two of them was Vince Gill and Eric Clapton. And then around high school, I had a girlfriend in high school, for like 3 months or something like that. I never really dated or anything, but she had gotten me uh, a John Mayer album, and I was like, I'm not listening to this, like he's whatever. And that was back when he was writing those real like girly songs,
Yeah.
like, and not in a bad way. I mean, it was a way to market himself, right? Um, and then I remember one day just getting bored with everything in my car, and like bored with all the CDs, and I pulled out that Room for Squares album. I put it in, and I was like, no, kept skipping, just because they kind of sounded fluffy. And then I get to Neon, and I was like blown away at the guitar work. And I was like, I got to learn this song. It's one of those songs like, Hotel California, or, All Along the Watchtower kind of songs where you're just like, I got to learn this, like, just to better myself. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole for a while, listening to him. And then I think it was in 2007 or something like that, Continuum came out. And in my mind, that's some of the best guitar work on an album ever is Continuum. It's got Gravity, it's got Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, it's got all these major timeless songs, really. Because I mean, you're a guitar player, so you get on YouTube, and you constantly see people how to play Slow Dancing in a Burning Room. There's thousands of videos, tens of thousands of videos on how to play Gravity. He's someone to actually admire when you're a guitar player.
Yeah.
I think he was more supposed to be a surgeon. You know what I mean? The way he plays, he's very precise, very uh, deliberate in everything he does. His vibrato on guitar, everything like that. So I kind of modeled. He was. I was very grateful. I think first of all, was like that there was finally a guitar player making music. You know what I mean? Like there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot when I was in high school. There wasn't a lot of people actually iconically playing guitar. And so I was kind of grateful. I was like, I'm gonna learn this guy's stuff, and it does make you a better player. And so I know it's a long answer, but no, I really appreciate that because he is, in my opinion, he's one of the goats. He's up there when it comes to versatility, um, and also making songs that people can listen to. You know what I mean? Like there's songs where you can hear somebody just riffing, and just going off, but is it good to listen to? Like, is it something you can chill and listen to?
Yeah.
Or the aesthetics of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, dude, when he plays with that soft feel and how they get it captured on a record, I love that.
Oh yeah. What's
So,
your favorite song of his?
man, I'm not gonna lie, like I've never done a deep dive on him, but when I find him on like any video on YouTube, I will sit and watch. Like, and like I have a Silver Sky sitting right next to me. Like
I have one too. Yeah.
I I love his sound. It's just like one of those things. I just never like went down like the rabbit hole. But
Right.
I've only really heard like his like popular songs. I love that song he did with Zach Bryan. I
Mm.
that guitar work, just the you just know it's him.
Yeah, it's like a fingerprint, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like I can tell I can tell it's him just by him playing. And most guitar players kind of have that. We hear your voicing, so we hear the way you're, you know, the way you pick. We hear the way you pull, all that stuff. So we can tell, oh, that's Brad Paisley, or that's Brent Mason, or you have a way of like telling. It's kind of like face recognition, but the opposite. It's just there's some about it, the tone, the texture, everything there, what effects they choose, but yeah, I think he's one of the greatest, and I don't know anyone who can combat that, really.
Yeah, he's definitely criminally underrated.
Yeah.
Because you'll say his name and people will like laugh. Like
Yeah.
when you talk about the great, I'm like, what are you talking about? Watch this dude sit next with like Derek Trucks and BB King.
Oh my gosh, that Derek Trucks video when he's sitting next to him and Truck starts playing.
Yeah,
And he is just a god on guitar, just
yeah,
playing slide, and Mayer just throws his hands up like, I don't know, I don't know what he's doing, that kind of stuff. I nerd out all the time on guitar players.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Who's
Yeah.
your biggest influence?
Oh my
Who
god.
got you to want to pick up the guitar?
It's a cross between CC DeVille and Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, I love Van Halen.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like it was Take Your Whiskey Home was like one of the first Van Halen songs I heard. And I just like that. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And Ice Cream Man, like those
Oh
solos.
yeah.
Because like of course everybody loves Eruption, but going into uh I'm terrible with it. Da-na-na-na-na. I just Eruption wasn't long enough for me because
Right.
I ended up loving even as a guitar player, I know a lot of guitar players don't like guitar players like Steve Vai and
Right.
Satriani, and I got into like all that, and it's
Yeah.
Yngwie Malmsteen. But I guess I loved. It's funny. People always make fun of me, but CC DeVille I thought was like great phrasing and great tone. I loved how like it was distorted, but still had that rounded sparkle of the
Mm.
guitar. Like I always loved I think it was like Voodoo Labs. I think they made it. They're like a sparkle drive where it took your clean and split it with dirty, and I just like how that just
Right.
sounds.
Right.
But like the first amp, like I had to get was a 5150.
Oh,
So
really?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, my dad, my dad finally broke down. I was like, you pay. I have my sister. I was like, you pay gymnastics outrageous amounts of money, and it never ends. You pay every month. All you have to do is pay this
Right.
once, and we're
Right.
done. So he went to the music store, and the guy's like, no, 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 get over here. And I'm like, man, no, no. And my dad was like, hey, let's go with the 1x12. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I just, I brought it home, and I was like, man, I'm never gonna be happy unless I have that 5150. He bought me a half stack, and
Oh, wow.
it that sound, I still have it. I should plug it in and see if it even still works. But like, it like hits you in the chest, and it like sets. It's like a defibrillator. Just that air.
Right.
Once I heard that air with, and then it just putting some reverb and some delay on it, and it's just I loved it. I loved his sound. I think it was off balance. Don't tell me what love can do. That jing, 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 jing. I think that's one of the best guitar tones ever captured with Eddie Van
Mm.
Halen.
Right.
But I did love like Something to Believe In with Poison and all that, and
Ooh, yeah.
like on the Skinny Pop.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of amp you play through now?
Kemper.
Kemper?
Yeah,
Nice.
I like having consistency. No matter what room I'm in, I always get the same saturation. You don't
Yeah.
have to like the sound guy's not putting your stuff up against the wall, and
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't know. I have like the Mesa Mark V and the dual rectifier, and
Oh, nice.
I have a 5150 with the EL 34s,
Mm,
which I like. Nothing will ever replace them, but like when they started the war in Ukraine, I was like, man, that's where all the tubes are made, and I was like,
right.
this is like on a like, how many guitar players in the world are really keeping these factories afloat with these?
Right. Well, my
These
neighbor, he builds like tube amps and stuff. So
really?
he's got a whole rack in his basement of just every tube you can buy. So like just tons of them. So I always go over there and I'm like, hey man.
I'll just move in, like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I would love to have a friend like that. It's funny. Like I just start playing with a guy. He works at PRS. He puts together Silver Skies. That's what he's like. That's what he does all day. It's just
Right.
puts them
It's the
together.
number one selling guitar.
Is it,
Yeah.
dude? There's what everybody hates about that guitar is my favorite thing about it. Just the headstock. Just because I'm lazy and like the gun, I can tune restring a Fender guitar in no time, but the silver
Right.
I gotta walk the other side, and it
Right.
doesn't. It's little things like that. I'm just like, but the 7.25 radius and just the pickups, how like they're like vintage, modern, and they're not as noisy.
Yeah.
I love the thing. The only thing I don't like is I constantly smack the pickup selector.
Oh yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like. I wish it had a more
Yeah.
resistance. But
Right. Because that neck pickup sounds incredible on that
oh yeah,
guitar. It's so juicy.
it's
You
so
know, it's
yeah.
it's got that bluesy tone to it. And then you end up smacking it down to the bridge and it sounds like a telly, when you do that. Yeah, I like the guitar. I honestly don't ever play it live. I never pick it up and play it live. Um I don't know. I always end up grabbing. I have a B bender telly.
Mm,
I end up grabbing. Which is weird. I grew up a Strat guy. Like I grew up just loving Strats, and here in the past like 5 years, I'm like, Telly's where it's at. My actual go-to guitar is a Gibson 335. I love that tone.
yeah,
It's
I've never played one, and yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because like all your mostly all your pictures are you with a guitar like that.
yeah, I grab it. It's right on the wall. But it's I don't know, it's just one of those guitars that just has that. I remember seeing Chuck Berry as a kid, at my grandparents' house. My grandparents always had like black and white TV on, right? It's TV land all the time at their house. And I'd go over there and I'd watch like I Love Lucy and Gilligan's Island, all that stuff. And then they would put on like who was it? I kind of like the older stuff, like the older television. But anyways, it was I forget whose show it was, Ed Sullivan or something like that, and Chuck Berry was on there, and he has that 335, and I'm like, God, that sounds good, and it just looks so cool. It's like the classic quintessential electric guitar. But I think you'd love it, especially being a metalhead. I actually have two. I have one with EMGs in it,
Really?
and it's from 1988. Yeah, it's man, that thing's chunky. It sounds big. So, but yeah, you would love it.
Yeah, I've never played one. Obviously I've seen tons of people play them, and but what? So when you play a show, are you like do you go back and electric and acoustic?
Yeah, yeah, typically. There's just, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do is play lead and lead sing, you know. There's only a few people that can do it, you know,
Yeah.
really. You know, there's Jimmy, there's Stevie, there's John, you know. There's only a few that you can really name that do it well, you know, Vince Gill or Brad Paisley. There's not a whole lot of people who can do it. But you know, there's the entertainment aspect of being on stage, right? Like I'm here to entertain, I'm here to interact with the crowd. And when you're so focused on just executing what you need to do, um, there's certain songs that I kind of feel like it takes the luster out of it, you know what I mean? Like it kind of doesn't have the same feel if I'm on electric, you know, versus just having someone else play the riffs or whatever. I think maybe in due time, you know, when you know, we're blowing and going and touring and playing, you know, 50 to 60 shows a year, you know, kind of thing. I think it'll become second nature at that point, you know, when it's full. I mean, when you do a job full time, 40 hours a week, you get pretty good at it, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, but you know, as an adult, it's kind of hard to find time to always sit there and practice and always be practicing and staying sharp and stuff like that. So, but yeah, maybe one day it'll just be straight, you know, I could probably just go on tour with a trio, you know, or something, but not right now, you know.
Yeah, dude,
But
I love when I know I'm going to a country show and the lead singer steps out with an electric. I don't know what it is. I just get excited because
it's it's like that's the biggest power move in my opinion. Like that's like, all right, let's see what he's got. And when they
yeah,
do have it, you're just like, wow, that dude's talented. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's like the first time I saw Alexi, I always remember Alexi Aliho. I didn't know he sung. I was like, this dude does all this and sings, and
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
same as like Black Label Society. I didn't know it was Zach Wild singing, so I saw like a music video. I was like, man, he's doing all that cool riffage and everything. But dude, I love when like the lead singer just steps away from the mic and just
Rips.
shreds a solo and
Yeah.
just goes back to just singing. It's something about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's cool because like I said, you don't see it a lot. You used to see it a lot, you know.
Yeah.
It used to be a thing, and you just it's far and few anymore. Um, I heard that oh no, why can't I remember? His name always slips my memory. Ah, he's a newer artist. Sounds kind of 90s. What's his name? I always forget his name
Zach
for some
Top.
reason. Zach Top. I don't know why. I've been listening to him like crazy. For some reason, that name just doesn't stick there. But I heard he's a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw him live. He plays a Brent Mason Telly, and
Yeah,
I'd been wanting a B bender, but I wanted one, that was mass produced that where I could return it,
right.
not get some customized. And I was on the fence, just doing the YouTube, watching Brent, watching that, and then it's funny, is like I had walked by Zach Top and I looked at him and said, "Man, why is that? I must know him from TikTok."
Yeah,
And then the first band comes out and it's Zach Top, and he's got the Brent Mason, and he
yeah.
rips it, and I'm like, well, this just cost me a whole bunch of money because that's just
Oh
so good.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
he's a really good guitar player, and he does not miss a beat singing as well. I
yeah.
seen I saw him. I guess he came from bluegrass, where and he was doing all that like flat picking and everything. It was like,
Oh
man,
yeah. Those guys are incredible.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's one thing. To be able to do an electric is easy, but acoustic, that's a
yeah. Some
whole nother
grip
thing.
strength, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Y-
no, I actually I don't know if you know this, but I actually had Brent Mason on my albums
Mhm.
or on my tracks and stuff. So yeah, we recorded over at Sony and at Sony Tree in Nashville. And he is, I mean, that was the second time I got to kind of work with him. Um, and he is just the nicest person on earth. And my God, he is the country telly twang sound. Like
Yeah.
I I cannot believe the tones he just comes up with. Just, you know, the the riffs, the licks, everything. He's just so creative. And that guitar is pretty bomb. I almost bought one a couple months ago, and I was like, "Oh man, I just spent 4 grand on a 335, like
Yeah.
I can't spend another 4 grand, 3 grand on this, and but I live in Colorado now, and you just don't see B benders out here.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Nashville, they're everywhere, but you just don't see them this side of the Mississippi, really. They're not just floating around. So when I found one, I was like, oh, I like this thing, and I just ended up buying it.
Yeah. I bought the Mason, and I still the B bender. I'm still like, well, how do I do it? Like
Yeah,
I do it for like when we were playing like Simple Man. I would just had like just
yeah,
little bends that open chords, but other than that, like the if you know how to use it, man, I just like watching like Brent Mason when he does like a from the office and just how it's amazing. It's just one string, but my
right,
God, it makes a huge difference. And
yeah.
there's no other way to do it. I think some people they mimic it, but man, to actually have like the mechanism in the guitar is just it's so
It's a
cool to
game
watch.
changer. It
Yeah,
really makes it a lot easier to do a lot of those country bends, those riffs and stuff. It's kind of like adding another finger,
yeah,
where you have this ability now where all you're doing is pulling down, and it's a great sound though. It doesn't and it sounds just a little bit different than you just bending that B string, paired with the E or whatever. It sounds just a little bit different, and it's really unique. Kind of get that fade a little more or something. There's something about it.
yeah. It's like the yeah, I just forgot his name. From the Wilder Blue. He's got a B and I guess a G, and he's
G, yeah,
and pulling it away, and I was like, man, that's a whole nother
yeah,
it, a whole nother way of just playing the instrument.
right, right,
But yeah, one day. The only thing with it is like it's kind of hard to do sitting down,
yeah, yeah. You got to
but
stand.
yeah, but yeah, it's funny. Like I know you played with Brandon Howard, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about Brett Mason. He's like, "When are you coming to Nashville? We'll have dinner together." I was like, "You just say when."
Oh,
I
Brent
just
said
said
that?
no. Brandon.
Oh, Brandon said that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How long did you play with him for?
Um, I want to say probably 2 years. Um, yeah, I think it was 2 years, and then he ended up moving to Texas. So, um, just more opportunities. Like here in Colorado, it's kind of a musically desolate kind of place,
Yeah,
especially country. There's not a lot of country like bars to play. There's not a lot of like dance halls and stuff like that or saloons. So yeah, I mean he moved down there for more opportunity with it. And I mean Brandon's one of the greatest songwriters, I think. I can't wait for the world to hear him. He's got some amazing lyrics. His vocals are incredible. And we hit it off actually songwriting together. Um I think it was our first week after I tried out for the band. Because we only lived like a mile from each other. All these years, we'd only lived like a mile from each other. And I during COVID, my business kind of went out. I had a oil and gas business down in Odessa, Texas, and I was living up here, so I just go down periodically and run the business a little bit. So, anyways, COVID hit. I ended up meeting Brandon through kind of the grapevine, and um, tried out for his band, and they were like, "Heck yeah, we want you in the band." I think that week, me and Brandon sat down like 5 times, like for hours and hours, and just were, it's one of those things you meet those people you have chemistry with, when you're writing songs. And me and him just clicked. It was just like something about his voice and my kind of bluesy country way of playing, because he's a very bluesy, gospel-y esque kind of singer, as well as country, and it just really meshed, man. Like it was like a match made in heaven. We wrote some bangers. I think they're great songs.
Yeah, he's a madman. he,
He's
he
wild.
he cracks me up. I had him on the podcast, and I was like, "What's your deal with cucumbers?" And he went on this rant, like, "Yeah, don't get me started on the cucumbers. They're in everything now, man." Like, it's just something so simple, but
Yeah. I
but
was
that
terrified of bananas.
really like a phobia.
There's a video clip of him when we were at Ocean Way recording his album, and he's there's a video clip, and it just like camera turns on, and he's sitting there talking to the mic in the booth for a mic check. They're like, get in there and talk for a little while so we can get the mic EQ'd and all that stuff. And he's just talking. The camera turns on. He's like, and that was when I realized I'm terrified of bananas. Can anyone hear me? Like it was so funny. He's a crack up. He's a good dude.
Yeah, yeah. I hope to meet him one day. I've only just like talked to him and messages and all that.
Right. Yeah. He's funny though. He cracks me up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nights I was like, "You can't say that, Brandon. We're gonna get arrested," or so, he's unhinged, man, when it comes to what he'll say whatever he wants.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But so what keeps you in Colorado? It's just
So I'm a dad. I have 3
uh
boys.
oh
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I got divorced during COVID. Um, So, when they moved, I was actually planning on moving when Brandon moved. We were all actually planning on moving, the whole band and everything, and everybody else ended up going, and I ended up going through a divorce at the time, and I'm not gonna leave my kids ever. So, I'm like, well, I'm here, and then that kind of kicked off me just going, well, am I done with music? Because I loved what I did. I loved playing lead guitar and singing harmony and writing songs. I loved that spot. And then it was like I started getting calls like, "Hey, do you want to come play? Do you want to come play your songs, and do you want to come do this songwriter roundtable?" And I never even really thought of myself that way, because I hadn't been a solo artist for almost 15 years at that point. So yeah, I just ended up doing it myself, and I periodically go down, and Brandon would call me and be like, "Hey, man, we got the show. I need a lead guitar player. Can you come down?" I'd just hop a flight or dri- hop in the car or the truck and head down and go cover. And we're still great friends. We still co-write. We do a lot. So, but yeah, that's kind of why I got stuck here. So, but it kind of ended up working out. Kind of gave me the confidence to step out, be a front man again, and um you know keep writing songs on my own and pursuing that part of my career.
Yeah. I mean especially with the songwriting part, like you can do that anywhere,
Right, right.
especially now. And or even like even like recording, it's amazing. Like you can send DIs to anywhere and they can reamp your stuff. And
Oh yeah.
it is nice that you don't have to like fly to places to be there in person. Even though
Right.
some people they still want that because it's a lot harder to tell a producer no when you're in the room with them and they have all the buttons in front of them and you just go, well, you're done. but
Yeah.
but yeah, that's cool. It's, but yeah, I'm like, I don't really know anything about Colorado. Like, I've never been there. What's what's like the popular music? Is there
Um,
like a is there like a scene type thing?
dude, um there's a lot of cover bands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's kind of weird. Like, like I don't really fancy being in a cover band. Like to me, it's like I don't know. I think I know a lot of great players who aren't songwriters, though. I know a lot of great singers who aren't songwriters, and I actually know the least amount of, you know what I mean? Like that's out of everybody in music, songwriters are the least amount of people you're gonna know. Like not everyone does it. Some people have written a song, but to be like, pursuing it and constantly writing new music, like it's rare to meet those people. So I understand, like I'm not knocking it. It's just not my thing. Like I don't want to sing somebody else's songs. I want to sing mine.
Yeah.
Or, even if it's not mine and it's one I want to cut from somebody else and kind of let the world hear that song. Like, I want to kind of, put a stamp on my career, like this is what I brought to the industry or to the world, for people to enjoy. I mean, that's why we do it. So, yeah, there's a lot of cover bands. There's there's a lot of like experimental rock, hippie kind of sounding stuff, and
Huh.
I'm not knocking it. It's not my thing though. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it's really hard to like kind of break through with in the country genre here. There's a few places and you kind of end up with a residency there because there's not very many country bands and stuff like that. So, but we have fun. We go out and do our thing and you know rock the house. Because there is a lot of country people. That's the thing. Like there's a lot of farms. There's lots of cattle. But there's only a few bars for these people to go, and we go and we bring the 90s classics, and we bring originals, and people just have a great time. It's a lot of fun.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's like around here, it's like cover band and tribute bands. And tribute bands that I don't know, like it, for bands that are still alive, like I get like I guess kind of being like the day before the real guys come into town, you play like the pre-party,
right.
but just dressing like them, acting like them on stage, it's I don't know. Sometimes it just like
Yeah.
creeps me out.
Yeah, that's what I meant. There's a lot of tribute bands, yeah. And I mean there's like a Kiss cover band, there's like a Stone Temple Pilots cover band. I'm like, did they have enough? Like, I mean, I liked some of the STP songs, back in the day, but like, I'm like, did they have enough hits to be a, tribute band, to have a tribute band or,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that kind of, yeah, it weirds me out a little bit too.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of like cool venues out here, and that's like all that they have. Every once in a while they have obviously other artists and everything, but it's just a saturation of just like even like the names. The tribute band names bother me. Like it's
Yeah,
taken from some songs.
right.
I don't know. It's just weird. It, I don't know why it bothers me so much,
Like
but
a Hall and Oates cover band. It's just adult education or something. Like,
now if there was a tribute band for my band, I'd love you.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd probably join it.
Right.
Oh, it's there's a cart. I don't know if you ever watch Metalocalypse. I always say that wrong. The Death Clock, or they're like this like big heavy metal death metal band, and the one guitar player felt like he wasn't getting enough parts of solos, so he started a band, ended up joining a tribute band, being the lead guitar player, and then they all wanted to join the tribute band because the tribute band was having more fun. It's stupid but nice.
Yeah,
It,
you see that a lot.
yeah, tribute bands. That's
Yeah,
like
there's a ton of them out here. It's crazy.
and yeah, out here as well. And have you ever been approached to join one? They pay so much money.
They do.
Yeah. My one buddy, they asked me Motley Crue, and it was $130,000 a year. I was like, what? Just just playing songs you pretty much already know. You just got to throw in what spandex and grow your hair out. 130,000. I said that's everybody in the band's making that. Like
Yeah.
what? That's insane.
I don't know. I draw the line at spandex, I think, you know.
I like my sweets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's man, God, that era. Like we were talking Poison, the one album color cover. If you didn't know, like a kid now today would be like, who are those ladies?
Yeah. Twisted Sister. Yeah. They'd probably
Yeah,
be like, what the?
these guys ruled the world. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, with them, and then you can go watch him address Congress, and you go, what? That's the
Yeah.
same guy.
Motley Crue, you know, like, yeah. It's a lot of spandex back then.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
you just smell the hairspray. And there's
Oh man.
man, it was wild back then, and that was back when like you kind of didn't have to like worry about like PR. Like you could end up in a dumpster and people would be like, rock and roll, man. Now
Yeah,
it's
that's rock and roll, baby. Yeah.
now it's like, yeah, you'll get canceled if you're
Oh
doing
yeah.
crazy stuff like that, chucking TVs out of hotels. And it's like I never got in like the end of a Who show where they blew everything up and smashed everything. I don't think that would go over very well.
No, I don't think so either. No one really does that anymore.
Yeah,
Just probably Sturgill. That's about it, right? Like Sturgill
uh
will smash his guitar.
oh, I like cry on the inside when I see that.
Yeah.
I
Especially when you know it's a good guitar, you know.
yeah.
You're like, oh, another one down.
Yeah, dude, I have a problem just selling mine because it's like, man, it'd be the one that
Obviously, look at behind you.
I mean,
Jeez.
oh my, yeah, I do need to get rid of some. It's funny because like I used to make fun of people that had Telecasters. I used to just be like, ugh, roll my eyes, and then like I remember just like looking at like the stats of them. I'm like, well, look how hot these pickups are, and
Yeah.
then like John 5 came out, and I'm like, oh crap. I was like, you can make them sound like that, and now like I have a bunch of them now, and I just love how versatile they are. And
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's honestly like when you want that good like chicken picking sound, like there's no other guitar.
yeah,
Like my 335, I like to play that with rhythm and stuff like that, like power chords, all that. They've got a weird, uh, not weird, but a unique like growl to them. Even when they're clean, no effects on them. They got this like growl. That's the only way I can describe it, but kind of like a raspy singer. You know what I mean?
okay,
Like it's kind of like someone can hit the same notes and you can grab that 335 and it's like, oof. It's like Chris Stapleton, you know, all of a sudden you got this rasp. It's really cool. But that telly's just cuts, you know, it's got that high cut, really cuts through all the noise of whatever the band's doing, you know, and just carves through the crowd, you know. It's kind of a cool sound.
yeah, yeah, and nothing else sounds like them.
No,
It's just like it's funny. It's like how like I'll like when I bought the Silver Scout, I was like I'm done because I didn't have any true single coil guitars
right.
because like I have one, but they're stacked. They're pretty much single coil humbuckers, and I was like, yeah, like I need it. I'm like just the way how like I convinced myself I need to put
Yeah.
myself in the debt to get these sounds.
Did you get the American or the SE?
I got the American.
American. Yeah.
Yeah, the I figure I'm playing with the guy who makes them. and he was, it's just like he's like, dude, just spend the money. He's like,
Yeah.
because anything goes wrong with it, I'll fix it. I was like, okay,
Right.
deal. Because
Yeah.
the factory's only it's about maybe an hour and a half away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's funny like the
Is it in
venue,
Pennsylvania?
Maryland.
In Maryland? Okay.
Yeah, uh, Paul's band actually played the venue down the road here, but I missed it. I would have loved because a couple of my PRSs, they like I don't play them because man, they all like broke on me. But they were the ones overseas, so it took some convincing to put that kind of coin down. But it it's it sounds awesome. It,
Yeah.
yeah, if only it gave you the power to play like them.
Oh, I know. I was hoping some of that would rub off, but it didn't. So every time I pick it up, I'm like, I don't sound like John. So then I grab the telly. I'm like, now I sound like me.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's a great sounding guitar. I mean, it's fun. It's easy to play. It's got that shorter neck. You
yeah,
know, you kind of feel invincible with it a little bit.
yeah.
Man, this is like a gear junkie
I know.
podcast. I'm sorry.
It's all
I
right.
I buy gear all the time, and
So
it's
do I. And you know what I do a lot? Like I like to think like when I did get the Silver Sky, I I would like to think like, do you think Stevie Ray Vaughan would play that guitar? Like he'd pick it up and go, yes, and put it on his stage guitars because I know like what's his name Philip Sace. I know he's like a I don't know if you ever heard him.
mm-mm.
Dude, I recently found out about him. That dude is he's the closest I've seen the Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's and he's yeah. You definitely got to check him out. He had,
Is
but
he
he
a
looked
little bit older? He's
yeah. I say he's older. Every other video, I don't know. He
but
was
he wears like a black fedora, right? And he plays like a black Silver Sky.
yeah
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
and
he's incredible.
yeah. He's like another one where I'll watch and go, man, give me some of that. But
I know
yeah, I
it
always
doesn't rub off. I don't know what
yeah,
it is.
yeah. Yeah, I shook his hair. I shook his hand and tore his hair and made this voodoo doll, but it's not working.
Yeah.
But I always wonder, like, I loved watching Stevie Ray play, and I always wonder, like, with this like modern gear or stuff, we have access to, like, what would he play?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question because he kind of struck me as a purist, you know,
Yeah,
because like he'd be up there with maybe an 808, like at his feet, just a overdrive pedal. And then you'd see him over there messing with the amps, like mid solo, just over there, like carving these amps up, like, well, I want more of this, more of that. So I don't know, like, I don't know. I didn't know him personally, but like, I would think he would probably be like, nah, I'm gonna stick with my strat. I kind of get that feeling about him because I've wondered that too. Would Clapton play it?
yeah,
Or are they just purists? They want their Fender. You know, and I see that. I can see the appeal to that because I was playing through like a Helix for a long time. Which is a great pedal. In my opinion, they're almost a Kemper.
yeah,
You can dial them up to sound exactly like them, but I started going back to tube amps and analog pedals and stuff, and I'm like, man, this just is like I don't know. There's something about having the amp in the room. You feel it. You kind of want to wash yourself in the sound, kind of thing. I don't know. For me, music's so much feeling.
yeah,
Like I'm not a really vulnerable person like too often, but music just completely breaks down all that. So it's like when I play something, it comes out of emotion, stuff I don't feel confident talking about, like as a man, So but yeah, it's something about them old tube amps. Like right now I'm on a Vox AC 15 and I just love the tone. Like it's that British blues, kind of sound, um, and a Hot Rod Deluxe, just I just like those natural reverbs that you get from the tube amps. Kind of beautiful, can't really be mimicked too well digitally, but I mean, some of the stuff's getting close though. It's getting
Yeah.
really close compared to 20 years ago. I mean, it was terrible back then.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Those old DoD multi pedals. I had one of
Oh my
those.
God. Yeah.
It's like, oh, you like static, dude?
Oh yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah. What is the other one? Not the Kemper. I swear, every time I get on these, I forget names, song
Yeah, me
titles,
too. Yeah.
and gear. The not the Axe effects. Oh my God. I, and it's funny. As soon as I hit stop, I'll go, ah. Uh,
Digitech.
no, God, not a, well, whatever. But Dylan Wheeler, his guitar player Brock, he has this clean tone, and what I love about him is I'm like, dude, I love that tone. He goes, well, get one of these, and I'll give it to you. Because you can have 100% of what I sound like it. That I love. Like when people go, "Hey man, I love your tone." I'm like, "Hey, do you have a Kemper?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, here you go. I'll send it to you." And
Yeah.
there's because like you can spend hours trying to
Oh
sound,
yeah.
and then like now you can just send like a little file over.
Right.
It's for a while. Like I was actually just keeping little like thumb drives. Every once in a while, someone come up and be like, "Hey man, I have one of them. I like that. What profile is that?" And I just, here you go.
Yep.
I like now with like the mixers, you can record your show and give it to people, which I thought I was like a pioneer on that. But I went to a show and the guy goes, "Listen, this is the show," and he goes, I give them out for free at every show. I have a set amount, but if you want to relive the experience, the show you're at, here you go. And I thought it was great marketing. He also they were from Boston, so they're up north, and he just had name your own price for my merch, which I was like, that's a bold move in this town. Sir." The guy ended up talking to him. He goes, I ended up making more money, uh, just just through people being honest. And I was like, man, that's. I was like, have you ever been to this town? Have you walked outside this venue? Like, is your van even still outside? It's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, this is a beautiful venue, beautiful building, but you walk a block down this way. But yeah, like just it is cool now how like the technology of like I couldn't imagine like if you went to like a big show and you could buy like as a musician, like a tone pack at the merch booth.
Right.
You just get the exact settings you just heard.
Right.
Because that's the one thing when people always ask, they say, I'm stuck playing guitar. I can't get faster. I just can't get better. And I always tell people, give your guitar to somebody else. Watch them play it. And if they're good, that is going to make you want to play better. Because like my buddy Lance Rourke, he was like, "Man, I really love that Mason Telly." I said, "Dude, the next time you're in town, I'll let you play it." He's like, "Really, really?" And I'm like, "Dude," I didn't tell him. I was like, "It's going to be beneficial for me to watch him do things I can't do on that guitar, and it knocks down the excuses of, you can't do that on this." And I always thought that was like when somebody will come over and just sit down and just take my guitar and just blow me out of the water. I'm like, ah, give it back.
Right.
And let me come back in 2 weeks. Let me go in
Yeah.
the old woodshed.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed that kind of helps me get over a hump is going to an artist show. And if I'm being honest, I don't really like going to shows too much. I don't know what it is. I kind of get I kind of get nervous around a lot of people.
Oh, dude,
Um,
totally get it.
yeah, I don't know. There's some kind of anxiety I get, but um, there was a venue we were scheduled. Brandon and I were scheduled to play at, and we'd never played there before. But Whitey Morgan was playing there, so I was like, let's go see Whitey. We'll get a feel for the venue and a feel for, how they do things there and stuff and sound. Because I'm a big sound guy. Like I really like to make sure my sound is perfect. The whole band is perfect. Everything's cutting. And at the right points. And stuff like that. So we go and watch, and his guitar player blew me away on the B string. Like his B string work was like I've never heard somebody do so much with the B and the E strings. It was just like really cool. And it was just Whitey on acoustic and his lead guitar player. And it was like really cool. And Brandon and I went back, came back home. It was in Wyoming. So we were up in Cheyenne for that show, and we came back home, and I could not sleep that night. I just started messing around with the high strings, and I'm like, this is cool. And then the next day, Brandon was like showing me the song he wrote, and I was like, oh, I got the perfect lick. And I did, I kind of stole some technique from Whitey Morgan's guitar player, and it was an awesome lick. It was like really cool. Really, it was like that signature, riff for the song. But I was like, man, it just takes getting out and watching people play. Sometimes it's hard to get motivated watching YouTube and stuff like
Yeah,
that, or you see people do stuff on a screen. It's not the same as in person. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's like this disconnect between like the TV and your brain. You're like, man, this guy's famous. He's on TV, and I'll never be able to do that. And then you see it live, and you're like, oh, these are real people, and they're really doing that. So
yeah.
yeah,
And yeah, it's definitely well, it's the most immersive experience you can have. Well, reality.
right,
Yeah, those guys are good, man. After like hearing them and like when everyone's talking about like old outlaws out and everything, I'm like, dude, like, have you not heard Whitey Morgan? Like,
oh yeah,
he has that sound,
he's
and
great,
yeah, I really, I just recently saw them, and yeah, they put on a great show.
right,
The first time I saw them, I just remember looking at the harmonica player, and I was like, what else does he play? I didn't
right,
because that normally you play your little harmonica intro and you go and you pick up something else, and that dude played the entire show. That was my first time like really seeing that. I was like, wow, that's just how.
instead of just grabbing it for a part of a song. And
Yeah, he
yeah,
really plays the entire time, and it's funny as I ended up talking to him, not realizing it, and I was like, by the way he was dressed, I should have been like, you just got off stage, you're in the band, and because a lot of times like I'm not really looking at people's faces. I'm always staring at fingers and seeing what they're
right,
doing, and what's that on your board? And he was like, "Yeah, I'm the harmonica player." I'm like, "Dude, like never realized how versatile a harmonica could be." And
oh yeah,
it was really cool. Like he was doing like galloping, like riffs in the song and just like yeah, I really like those guys. And
right.
had I
Here's a
not
question. I have a question for you. I like asking people this. I'm gonna turn up my heat real quick because it's like 8 degrees outside, but I can hear you. My question is what is your favorite instrument you don't play? What is your favorite sounding instrument?
I love the piano.
Mm,
I I don't know why. Like I have a keyboard back there, and I have native instruments, contact with all every piano I could probably ever want to play, and the keys are all laid out, and it's all right there in front of you, and you can. I just never. I don't know, but I love it. I
you love the
absolutely
sound of it, but
yeah
there's something about learning a new instrument that it just doesn't give you the satisfaction of like
yeah
your main instrument. You know what I mean?
yeah. I 100% like the because I never listened to country. Like I heard Friends in Low Places and Achy Breaky Heart, and that is definitely not my cup of tea.
Right.
But and when I started listening to it, and like I was like, man, I love the banjo. So I bought a banjo. I got into it for a little bit,
Right.
playing like Cripple Creek, and once my fingers started meshing with my brain, it's all about how much you want to sit down with it. But man, they're loud. It's like
Yeah.
it was killing my ears. I'm like, I'm losing hearing. And I, I found a way to dampen it, but like after that, and then I went and bought a fiddle, and I thought for sure, I said it's an open tuning, I should be able to play it, because like you pick up a guitar that's an open tuning, you're
Oh
playing a
yeah.
chord without it. You can use one finger, make cool little riffs, and at least you're making music right off the get go. No, I picked that thing up, and it's funny is I only like played it for a day, and then I started tuning it, and it's like on the cheaper side, and the strings snapped. It smacked me in the face, and I was like,
Done.
oh, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave this to Kyle Nix and Bennett.
Right.
Yeah, Wes. But that's another instrument. Like seeing those guys just rip on that little
Yeah.
instrument with these are like man hands on that little neck, and just destroying them.
Right.
It's so God, it's so
Yeah.
awesome. I
Have you mentioned Wes? Are you talking about Wes
Wes
Barlow?
Wes Barlow. Yep.
Yeah, I know. He lives, I don't know, 20 miles from me.
Oh, really? I didn't know he lived up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it's funny is like we've been like friends. Well, yeah, friends. I'm just adding words together. Facebook friends, and then I like click. I was like, I did not know he played for Dolly Shine, and like I didn't realize like who he was. And I'm like, here I've been talking to him, and yeah, yeah, I like idolize those guys. It's it's awesome.
Yeah. I love Dolly Shine. I love Zach. Uh, Actually, his wife Rachel was engaged to my brother, and he passed away while they were engaged.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I'm still really close with her and Zach. And but yeah, it's kind of a small world when you get into in the country music world. It's like you start meeting everybody, and everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of crazy you mentioned them, because yeah, I think most of them are playing with um Flatland Calvary now.
Oh,
Um
really?
yeah. I don't know if they're touring much anymore. Dolly Shine, sorry.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. No, but Wes, he's a sweetheart, first of all. He's one of the nicest dudes and just the most clutch fiddle player ever. He'll I called him up the other day. I was like, "Hey, you wanna come jam?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm on my way." And he couldn't make it, but because traffic here is terrible. But he was down in Denver, and I'm up by Fort Collins, just south of Fort Collins, and but I've played with him a few times, and he just all right. I kind of go everywhere in my style, like I don't stick to one thing, but I'll write some like more bluegrassy sounding stuff, or and then he'll get on the fiddle with it. And I always write those kinds of songs with like fiddle in mind, with like the riff in mind, and he nails it every time. Like every time he's just perfect, exactly what I wanted. He's incredible. You don't meet those guys a whole lot, like an incredible fiddle player.
Yeah.
You know, I only know like two. So yeah, he's awesome though. That's weird. You guys know each other, but
Yeah, I love like he does like the fiddle clinics and everything for people wanting to get into
yeah.
it, and it's cool to see
Yeah,
like
he
a
just did one
full
down
band.
in Austin, right?
Yeah,
Or in Dallas or something.
yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
around there. It was cool to see like how many people are interested in like learning that style.
Yeah. Yeah. He's such a good teacher too. He's so patient. He's a great guy. Anyways, I'll go on about Wes all day.
Is there an instrument that you don't play that? Like the same question?
Actually, what I'm doing right now is my favorite instrument that I don't claim to play right now is dobro. Playing dobro with the slide, just that real twangy. I don't know. There's something about that instrument.
Yeah.
It's just so dirty but clean at the same. I don't know. I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe it. It's just the best sound. It can make you cry. It can make you happy. It can make you laugh, kind of thing. It's one of those instruments. Every time I hear it in a song, I'm like, oh man, you know. Um, Luke Combs just covered a dive from Ed Sheeran, and instead of the lead guitar in it, he has a dobro, and they do the riff on the dobro, and it sounds gorgeous. It's so weepy and sad sounding, but I don't know. There's just it's a crazy sounding instrument to me. My grandpa played steel guitar, played lap steel, pedal steel, stuff like that. So when I finally started picking it up, I was like, oh man, it kind of just feels like it's a part of you somehow. And it's the weirdest thing because you're in an open tuning and you kind of just throw theory out the window when you're playing it. And you're just like, but somehow you just slide right into where you want to be, and then all of a sudden you know what to do. It's weird,
Yeah.
but very fun, rewarding instrument to play.
Yeah.
Hard to practice though,
Oh,
because you
really?
got to have a track on. You got to have something going because it's like it's an accompaniment instrument. So
Yeah.
it's not like guitar where it's fine just by itself. You got to have something going, or else it just doesn't. It's got to be context.
Yes. I'm recently a fan of the pedal steel because for a while, like when I would hear it in a song, it always just ate up too much frequencies, and it just always seemed like they put it just because that's the formula with like all that
Right,
radio stuff, and I was just like, it sounded like Cats on Fire, and I just really didn't like it, and then I actually heard it in like the context of how it should be, and I remember being like, man, that sounds really good, and I was like, it's a guitar, blah blah blah.
right.
Let me see what the entry fee to get into playing this is, and then I looked up like how much they
Wow.
are, and I was like,
Yeah,
it's like a
cheap ones like 1,100 bucks.
yeah,
For cheap.
yeah, and people are like, everyone's saying like, don't even bother with them. Get this, and I'm like, dude, you're talking 6 grand.
Yeah.
That's a lot for Well, give that up, and it's
Yep.
how do you resell it? Like, what's the steel market value?
Yeah. It's
Market.
it's hard to even find them, really.
Yeah, there's a. I was looking. There's a big place in Virginia that has it's. They say, of course, they say it's the biggest in the country. And I was like, man, maybe one day I just got to go down there, and hopefully it's like a guitar center where I can just,
Yeah.
because if I could just walk up to it and start making pretty sounds with it, that makes it a little bit easier to think about actually buying one. But
Right.
yeah, sight unseen, I was like, oh my god. And
Yeah.
it, but man, like seeing like Zach from Silverado play, it's just like to hear it like that, and it sounds like shooting stars just going through the music, and just the way
Oh man.
how he plays, and just like there's just the runs you can do them, and especially you got a guy that um, can move his fingers fast and
Oh
really get
yeah.
into it, like because I he got a front man that says like, you just go at it, you know. It's like when everybody's just really jamming, and you get like I always tell the same stories. The Seen American Aquarium, watching that, I don't even know his name. Watching him play pedal steel, it's like it blew me away. Like
Yeah.
it could sound like this the entire time. And then he had pedals, and it was just like I got why people called it the crying machine.
Oh man. I mean, when we were at Sony Tree, we had Mike Johnson on steel, and like I mentioned before, music's very emotional for me. So I don't let a lot of emotions out, day-to-day stuff, but like when it comes to music and it comes to that instrument, Like I was holding back tears like most of the day. I was like, he just it's like your heartstrings just get tugged on the whole time that instrument goes because it's so sad sounding, you know.
Yeah,
It just sounds so weepy and but beautiful at the same time, you know. It's very unique, and I don't know, and I think it being kind of tied to my great grandpa, you know, like getting to see my great grandpa play that growing up, and kind of I don't know. There's a lot of emotion that it triggers for me, but because music's always just been such a big part of my life, I can't really, I couldn't run from it if I tried. I've tried,
yeah,
I spent like 12 years in the oil field, and um tried to kind of just forget about it and I couldn't, and so I don't know, there's something about certain instruments that just do it,
yeah.
sometimes you hear a B3, you hear somebody playing keys on, a B3 and you're just like, God, like that hurts in the best way, like holy cow.
It's fu-
Yeah.
the one instrument. I, the West Texas Exiles is the only way like I really enjoy it. The mandolin.
Mm,
It's something about like some people just don't play it in a mechanical way. Like
yeah.
I want it to be like on a I don't know. It's just maybe it's OCD of just
Yeah.
people that
So you're not a fan of mandolin or?
no. I've never heard it and liked it on like the Dime Rio songs where
Oh
like
yeah.
where it's not like played like what do they call like trilling like the
Yeah.
Italian kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just sometimes it's just I don't know, but
Sometimes when it's strummed, it just sounds really good, you know?
yeah, like a really high harmony going with the acoustic. I've never heard it like
Yeah.
that, but yeah, it's just something bad. It'd be the same if somebody played pick banjo and played it like that. It probably and I love the sound of banjo. It would probably just irk me. But yeah, that's like the
Yeah.
only instrument in like the genre that I haven't really been like.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like
if you go back and listen to the Goo Goo Dolls, and being from I think they're from, like, Buffalo or something like that, or Brooklyn. Being from that area and having a mandolin in the band was kind of, like, bizarre. But I was always like a big fan because they had crazy good chord structures and they play in open tunings all the time. But
yeah,
just like hearing the mandolin in like the pop rock genre was so unique. And he didn't do trills at all. He played it, light strums, and it fills that high frequency range of the song really well.
yeah.
Kind of gives you that coverage.
I probably never even noticed it.
Yeah, if you go back and listen to, I mean, you go back and listen to Name. Um, that is one of the, I don't know, it's very like, um, I don't know, nostalgic song. Like you go back and you're kind of like, oh, this kind of takes me back to this time, like the first
Yeah,
time you heard it. They're a very unique band, especially for back then.
yeah,
But yeah, they had some good blends of stuff going on, and it worked.
yeah. I just remember being like, "What's their band name?"
Yeah,
I expected like hardcore punk,
right.
but
Yeah,
yeah, now I gotta go listen to that, and I'll probably hear it and probably never unhear it ever again.
yeah.
I'll probably that'd be
Sorry,
interesting.
I ruin
No,
everything,
I
dude.
didn't say.
It's kind of a curse. I like sometimes I'm like, I wish I could listen to music like everyone else, where I just hear the totality of it,
Yeah,
and like it. When you've been in so many studios and you've written so many songs and you've constructed and composed these songs in a certain way, you hear everything, and then you're
yeah,
like, I don't like that. Just one little thing, and then you're like, I don't like that, and then you don't listen to that song because of one little thing. Maybe a
yeah.
mandolin was doing too
I,
much tremolo, or
I totally get that. 100%. I wish I could hear the lyrics above the music. I've tried.
I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way.
I mean, you could be up on stage being like, saying my name, like I'm gonna punch you in the face or something outrageous, and I won't hear it until I listen again. I'll be like, whoa, whoa, and I, I'm like, I should be able to learn how to do it, but like I've been doing this for like a couple of years now, and I still get lost. Like like when you get off, you'll see your song uh that I'm listening to it, and I just hear these like really like soft guitars, and I'm like, oh man, and then I'm like, oh, the lyrics, gotta listen to Matt, we gotta listen to Matt.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I wish, because like I was talking to BJ from American Crime just the other week. He goes, man, I hear the lyrics first. I'm like, really? That blew my mind,
Yeah.
because as a guitar player and a musician, like I'm like, how? I guess I don't know. Can it be learned? Like you said, you don't hear the lyrics first. Like it,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't first of all, it can be learned. It's just you have to like intentionally gear your brain towards it, you know? And then intentionally pay attention when the second verse comes around. You know? Like
yeah,
it's really hard for me because the music for me is what grabs me first. And because there's a lot of songs where I'm like, I really love those lyrics, but I do not like the composition of the song, or I don't like the tone of the singer or whatever. But great lyrics, you know. Um, there's actually a Noah Kahn song. It's "Season of the Sticks." I don't know if you've heard that one.
I don't.
Love very long, but it's the season of the sticks tonight. I don't know if you've heard that one, but
No, I don't think so.
um, great lyrics, very well written. His voice just isn't my thing, you know. But I heard some other kid. He's an Irish kid named. He goes by Gareth. I think he just moved to Nashville. Heard him sing it. He's like Luke Combs and Mitchell Tenpenny kind of thrown together vocally. Great sound, and he sang it, and I was like, "That's a phenomenal song." That's actually what turned me on to the song, because I'm not like the biggest fan of Noah Khan's style, but man, he's an incredible writer, though, you know. But so as a songwriter, I do have to pay attention to the lyrics, you know. But most of the time, first 10 times I listen to a song, it's all music, like.
Yeah,
But I'll memorize every note, you know. I know where the lead's going. I know every note of the lead, or the melody, but I can't just like first run through a song, like I can't listen to lyrics.
yeah. I'm still trying. It just made me think of have you ever seen? I think it being like South America. Have you ever seen like a heavy metal show from there? How the crowd, they sing the riffs of the
Really?
songs. Yeah,
I want to
it's
play in South America. That'd be fun.
it's dude. Like I was thinking about that the other day. How awesome that would be. Like not only are they singing your lyrics, they're singing your guitar too. Like
Yeah.
first time it was like Dave Mustaine talking about it. He goes, "Yeah, down here it's way different. They sing the guitars back to you." I was like, "Man, makes me wonder how they listen to music."
Right.
Because that's like we're talking tens of thousands of people for big shows like that, and for that to be the thing, that I guess the cultural difference that it's just interesting of how, because I in my head, like if I hear a song I know, I'll hum the guitar solos,
Mhm.
because that's what I used to do. Because you learn through your, well, back then, before the internet, where you can just be lazy instead of using your
Yeah.
ear. Just like, I need Matt Barr tabs. Oh, boom. Tell you what key, chords, and
Are there Matt Barr tabs?
I don't know.
Now I'm gonna look, and I'm like, if there is, that'd be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, or if not,
Yeah.
you can put them up too. Like I've been surprised of, not, I'm not saying people aren't big names, but how many tabs there are of like of people I'll see and not know, you know what I mean, not know them
Yeah.
before, and you go and people spend time tapping out music. That would be pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna Google that after.
Now I'm like curious. Dang it. uh no, I don't know. That's kind of where I like to that's where it all starts for me is on the guitar, like it's just you get on the guitar, and to me it's writing a song is just it's all feel.
Yeah,
Um when you look back at like classic rock, which people still play religiously. You go to any mechanic shop out there, you know what I mean? There's classic rock on. You know what I mean? Like you go to any bar, at some point in the day, there's a classic rock song coming on, or something like that. But back then, it was like the lyrics didn't really make sense at all. It was just like these catchy little sound bites, these catchy little phrases, and that was the chorus. And then the lyrics and the verses, you were like, what the hell are they talking about?
yeah,
But like it was more about the music back then. And that's the tricky part is in country music, it's all about your story.
yeah,
But it's not all about your story at the same time, because the composition's got to be good. The accompaniment got to be great, or else it's a dud. You could have the best lyrics in the world, if you don't have that composition, you got the great players behind you, it's going to be a dud. You know, I feel like that anyways, but I
yeah,
feel like it's been like that for a long time.
yeah. It's funny when you say classic rock. With like, I'm thinking about like Bush,
Mm,
like Mickey Mouse was a cow, or with all that, all the wacky lyrics they had. They still
right.
they dominated for a while, and yeah, and it's just the mechanic shop. That definitely is the soundtrack
It
to the
is. It
mechanic
is.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, those songs will never go away.
I don't think so. There's something to be said about that whole era where, people are like, "Oh, Jimi Hendrix is a he's in the genre of blues," and I'm like, "That's not accurate." Yeah, he's a blues. He's actually more of a jazz style player when you look at his chord voicings and what he's doing, playing a lot of F-shaped chords and stuff like that. He was actually acid rock, is what it was called. And then blues kind of started picking up. The style had been around, but it started picking up in the mainstream. You know, I feel like I feel like most of it came out of Memphis, honestly, like that bluesy sound. Um, and I could be wrong, but um, there was just so much unknown about music, and music was a very new thing. It had only been around on radio for, since radio came out. Radio hadn't been around that long, 50 years maybe at that point when classic rock started hitting the radio. So the whole industry is very new when you think about it.
Yeah,
It's about as old as the automotive industry. And um it's back then there was just this lack of knowing what a composition was. And there wasn't rules to radio play. You know what I mean? Queen released a 12-minute song, like, Bohemian Rhapsody, what was it, 9 or 12 minutes?
yeah.
I mean, it's a
It's a
long
long.
song. But it was interesting. That was the thing. Like you never lose interest during that song. It's a great, great song. But back then it was just, we're gonna do this and we're gonna see how it goes. And Led Zeppelin was, there's rock, and then all of a sudden they go into a blues riff at the end of a song, and it's like, is this the same song? And now that's kind of like frowned upon. I can only think of probably one or two artists that do that anymore, like Bruno Mars does it, with Silk Sonic and stuff like that. But you don't ever hear people breaking genre anymore, and just doing their own thing in music. Western music's kind of changed a lot, it's way more structured
Yeah,
than it used to be,
eh,
which I feel like kind of loses that um I don't know, I don't want to say organic, but that kind of like natural kind of feel. It's like, let's see what the artist does with this. And but it feels like there's a lot of walls put up now, you got to stay
yeah.
right here.
Yeah, a lot of like the saying, "Don't bore us, get us to the chorus."
Yeah,
A lot of stuff does feel like rushed,
yeah.
and
Because there is formulas. Yeah, there are
yeah,
formulas out there to write a hit song,
yeah,
and you can go by them, and you can write a hit. And I think all of us try to do that sometimes, and then sometimes you just write for yourself,
yeah.
and
Like,
sometimes those are the songs that take off.
yeah. Speaking of the formula, do you know Mitchell Ferguson?
Uh-uh.
He made a parody country song, and people said, "Man, you should really make that a song," and he did. And it's like they they're playing the demo on radio, and it's funny. It's like nobody really knows. You have to like be in the know of like your style, the Texas and the red dirt and everybody. And somebody came up to me and was like, "How do you have a Mitchell Ferguson shirt? He hasn't even finished the song yet." I'm like, you know him just from that song, and he's like a fantastic guitar player, and his voice is like between like Stapleton and Chris Cornell. He can sing,
Oh wow.
and like, yeah, he's gone viral for like prior to this, viral for like having like skits of playing a video game with his wife, and then next thing you know, he makes a parody song, and it's like, but he has like fantastic music, but he 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 used the formula,
Yeah,
and it's crazy how it worked as a parody into like a real song, which makes it just. I hope when people hear it, like they say, "Oh, he's got what's this?" Because he collabs with Austin Mead and some other guys that I really like, and but yeah, it is like when you're sitting down and you're like, because like you want your songs to be heard, and do you ever find like it's hard not to be like, this is it's like it's there's always got to be a part of yourself where you're like, man, I could just kind of bend my bend myself here and put this here just to to get the name out, and but it's like selling out, like because
yeah,
you you could write a song, you love it the way it is, but you just know it could be bigger if you did like apply the formula. Do you find that like frustrating?
like that's a hard question because there's a lot in that. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it's selling out. I don't feel like it's selling out because you do have an obligation to fans. Um, so you wrote a successful song, right? And you need to do it again. And like you don't catch fire that often in this industry.
Yeah,
And when you do, you want to keep it going. You want to get some more oil in that. And but at the same time, it's there's deep tracks. There's stuff like that, but that doesn't mean that um the lyrics don't mean anything to you, or it doesn't mean that the composition doesn't have a good feel to it. Um, Sometimes I find a way to break writer's block that way. Um, Actually, the song "Hell on My Own," I had outside influence from another artist, another big artist, and I was like, "That's a great tempo, great beat for coming out on stage." Kind of start your show that way. Is
yeah,
this really pumpy beat, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna take all that what he did, change it a little bit, and see what kind of lyrics fly out of that." And that was how I wrote "Hell on My Own." Was through kind of that composition. If I told you what song it was, you would not believe me because it sounds nothing like it. But it was just like that formula. Okay, that many beats per minute. or that time signature, um, that chord progression, and it's nothing like that song.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know.
It's a
It's
catchy song. I don't need your
well, thank
damn
you.
directions.
Yeah, yeah, that one's a. Most of my songs are very true stories. So yeah, but that one, yeah, I just kind of sat down and I never really write like this. Like I sat down, I got on Pro Tools and I was like, you know what? I need to break this writer's block. So you do something different, and so I get on there and I get that beat going. I was like, I want to write one of these, I want one of these. And I liked that song from that artist. And I was like, here we go. So I get the beat going. And then I was like, all right. And then I get with the bass and I'm like, all right, we're going to do a 4-1-5, and then go to the six minor, all that stuff. So your mind's going that way. But then all of a sudden you've created something that didn't come from your creative point where you start if that makes sense. I don't know if
Mhm.
that makes sense, but it's not your origin of where your creativity comes from. But being such a field player and such a musical player, more than a lyricist, is all of a sudden I start feeling something and I go, okay. And how songwriting goes for me is it always starts with the guitar. And once I get to those points, then I start hearing, don't need your damn direction. I can get to that. I literally will hear the words of like my chorus. And then I'm like, okay, now it's time to build that song around that chorus. Cause if it's so catchy that my mind just created that, then I need to build off of that. And I need to stay true to it, and I'm very pure in that sense. So I don't feel like it's selling out. I feel like it's taking an avenue to create. It's taking tools to create, right? Like no one's gonna knock you for pulling the engine out of your car with no tools, like or using tools, right? Like they're not gonna knock you for that. But if you're out there without tools, it's sometimes you're gonna be out there a long time, like at least the right tools, So no, it's I feel like some people could view it as selling out. I remember when like um Metallica finally made like a music video and everyone's like, "Oh, you sellouts." And I was like, there doesn't need to be gatekeeping on how much fame you get. There doesn't. These guys are trying to make a paycheck, and some of them already had families at that point when they hadn't even broke out in the mainstream yet, and
Yeah.
they got vastly wealthier than they could ever imagine, and they got to produce more music for 20 more years. Like for everyone to enjoy. And I'm not even a Metallica fan, but I just really respect like what they did for music and how they changed metal and how they took it in a totally different direction. Like so I don't think it's selling out. I think it's just using different tools to create. And you know, I I mean you listen to artists all the time, they're like, that's not my favorite song I've written, but it's the number one hit they've ever had, the biggest hit they've ever had.
Yeah.
Um I mean, I listened to John Mayer in an interview, and he was like, "I hate Say What You Need to Say," and that song was huge. It was massive. He's like, "I hate playing it." I don't think he said he hates the song. He's like, "I hate playing it," you know. And he's got a lot of good quotes about songwriting. He's like, "Man, if you feel like you like it," he's like, "sometimes that doesn't mean anyone else is gonna like it." He goes,
Yeah.
"But keep those songs there for you." And but yeah, I feel the same way when I write. Sometimes like when I came up with the If I Could Only, it started with that riff. Um here I got I'm not gonna sing it to you, but it's that that you know
It's funny. Your AirPods block that out.
oh, they did. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
very well, I
But
might add.
wow, that's good. But anyways, it's that um when I did that the first time, I was at my girlfriend's house and I was like, I ran inside. I was making burgers. I was outside, on the patio just making burgers, and I was sitting there playing the Gibson, and I was like, I ran inside. I was like, "Hey, is this stupid?" Like I'm always asking that. I'm like, "Is this stupid?" Because there's such a fine line between like a nursery rhyme, that you Mary had a little, like, but they're catchy tunes. That's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Like if there's a saying, if kids like your music, you're onto something. You know, like kids like simplicity, they like that. But it's like as a musician, you kind of feel like I need to make it simple, but also make it complex at the same time.
Hmm.
Like make it respectable. And she was like, "No, that's really good." And I was like, "Okay, I'll keep working on that." And she's like, "What are the chords going to be?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's in A minor, so like A minor, C, F, G, And then boom, it just like started coming together just like that. And I don't know tons of theory, but I know enough to be like, because you play lead, you have to know theory, you have to know some theory. So I'm like, yeah, I'll just throw these chords in, and then boom, that song just started coming to life. And it's actually that one. I'm like really proud of the composition of that song. And um, I know you didn't ask, but I'm just answering your question. Yeah. But yeah, that one's really cool. And then other songs just take you a long time. Like some of them, Brandon cut one of them because he helped me finish the song because I had been working on it for like 20 years, like
Wow.
since I was a kid. Um, but that one's called Angel, and man, that song was like it's bluesy. It's 3/4, but has so much room for twang, in it. Like you could take that song almost any direction. It could go Motown, it could go country, you know. And we threw it together, and it was like, man, this is a masterpiece. And that actually ended up being like our number one requested song everywhere we went and repeated a gig at. And everyone's like, "Angel, can you guys play that Angel song?" And it was, it's like same tempo as Tennessee Whiskey. It's really slow and but I know I'm talking a lot here, but no, it's the creative process. I don't knock anyone for how they do it. Because I know people who can just sit down with their notebook and just write lyrics all day. And I'm
Yeah.
like, God, if I had to put down what's in my head right now, I get arrested. Or, like, no, no, like not that bad, but it's like, sometimes you have a lot of demons, and that's where the music comes in and kind of take that away and cut it. So like I don't like sitting down with a notepad and writing first.
Yeah.
For me, it's all here, on the guitar, and just kind of whatever you start to hear in your head. And sometimes you don't hear the lyrics, but you hear the melody, you know, and then you're like, well, the cadence of the words needs to match the melody, or whatever. So you kind of get caught up in a lot of that. But I find that the best songs just come out of straight, just purity, like those songs that just fall out of you, like it
Yeah.
always existed. And it's just like, boom, there it is. 15 minutes later, you have a song, and you're like, wow, that was good. But those seem to be the ones that take off the quickest, is those natural fall out of your head kind of songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was thinking, it'd be nice if that happened all the time, right?
Yeah, I'm like, how do you capture that lightning in a bottle? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like some people do it though. I feel like there's so many good writers. Like I feel like when's Eric Church gonna just stop putting out great writing, like great songs? And like I don't know if he's ever gonna run out of ideas. Or Chris Stapleton, same thing. Like, does
Yeah.
this guy ever run out? Like, he's got so much gas in the tank. You know,
Yeah.
you get jealous of guys like that.
Yeah. Right. It's funny. It just reminds me of I don't know if it was like somebody's skit or bit, or it was comedians talking, and they were like, "What do you do when you run out of material?" One comedian goes, "I go to the bar or the nightclub by myself, and I become the drunkest person there, and my material writes itself because you end up getting yourself in situations." I'm like, man, that's a hell of a way to write.
Right. That's really good advice, actually.
He
Like,
said it's as easy as that. You're gonna end up with some crazy stories, and it'll work out. I was like,
yeah,
huh.
or go on tour with your band, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. God, half the hardest part of music is keeping four guys from not, MMA fighting every night. You're sitting next to somebody forever and ever and ever and ever, and that was always the hardest that I had to deal with. Is just it's when the one band they were calling me Uncle Patrick, and I was like, Uncle, ringmaster,
yeah,
circus. It, yeah, it's but if you have a bunch of guys that you get along with, that's worth so much more than like somebody that can, a virtuoso on an instrument, but you can't stand them.
right.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, the only formula for that I found is keeping your opinions to yourself.
Yeah,
I think that's the key to being on tour. It's kind of like keeping your, and it's not every opinion, but it's like just keep politics out of the bus.
yeah,
Keep, you know what I mean? Just don't like it. This day and age, it bothers me how much labeling and influence gets put on people because of what side of the aisle they're on. You know, more friends and have a lot more people in your life that you really care about. If you just didn't care, you know what I mean? If you just didn't care what their opinion was, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, let them believe what they want to believe, and you just go, I'm gonna love this person right where they're at because I enjoy this person, and I think that's the key, like of having a bunch of guys or even a mixed band, where you got guys and girls on the road. It's like, yeah, I should just approach it as if there is a woman in the room all the time, and just keep my opinions and keep negativity out of things and just stay positive and just build each other up the whole time, and yeah, it's fun to bag on each other, but don't get too personal with it, kind of thing. But I think that's the key, honestly. Like, just keep your opinions to yourself.
yeah. I that that definitely helps.
Mm. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to like get all preachy there, but yeah,
Oh, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, finding that balance,
yeah,
because like the one band I was in, like we've been playing music together since we were 13 years old, and we would still find stuff to knock heads on, and a lot of it had to do with like I I I I would tell when I would go to check in to a hotel, I would ask to pay for the smoking fee up front, so it just didn't hit the bank account of the band 2 weeks down the line, and they're like, "Well, you're not. It's a non-smoking room." I'm like, "Oh, I know. If you would like to monitor these two people for 24/7 of like and just be like, dude, like we could have stayed in a suite, you know Like, we're at the Super 8 for a reason because we're broke musicians and we're paying
yeah.
$250. I could have
Oh,
rented
so
the whole
your problem on tour is not having knuckleheads with you.
Oh my god, I've never I've it yeah. I see, I don't know if they listen
That's
to it and they'll be
that's the
like,
hard line, though. That's the hard line. It's like they're great players.
yeah.
These guys are great players, but they're idiots,
Oh,
like, or, like, how do you find the balance?
yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. I we called it the F It All tour, and it was some of the craziest. We have so many crazy road stories, but yeah, it all went. It yeah, it got really bad. But that's done. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like we squandered. It sounds like an unbelievable story, but it squandered like 3 record deals of shooting a pilot for a reality TV show that got all because who's going to pay for my gas to go? I was in Mexico and they were supposed to go. That we had a song it was called Rockstar, and it's just about just wanting to be famous. And there was they were doing a pilot for whatever country music TV about people that travel to Nashville to try to make it on the weekend and still have a job. And these were the guys they were talking about like doing like music or do like a record deal. And I just happened to be I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna tell these guys up front because we've lost so many deals. And the guy goes, "Oh, what's so original about you guys?" I said, "Well, you see that guy over there? He lives in a 1987 wilderness camper on his dad's property. That guy over there lives in a shed." And they're like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, he uses a grill to heat the shed, and he lives in there. He's got a big deer blanket." And I said, "Ask him how he gets spiders off his wall." And they're like, "Hey, how do you get spiders off your wall?" And he goes, "With a 22." I was like, "Mm-hmm." I said, "That's how they get rid of spiders in their houses. They just blow them away." And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Are you serious?" And I was showing them
Oh,
like
teach that
pictures.
spider.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, when it rains, that's like, it's also where we used to rehearse. And
Oh
they're
my
like,
gosh.
yeah. And they were like, "Dude, this guys sound crazy." I was like, "Yeah, this." And I was like, he doesn't even use you. He'll work all day with his clients and then eat with them. And I was like showing a guy a video, and he was just like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "I think we hold on." And they went outside, and they came back, and they're like, "Okay, listen, there we have an idea of this pilot, and blah blah." And it's funny. I was like, because I asked him, I said, "You ever see the Amish Mafia, the reality TV show for that?" And they go, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "Well, they filmed that on the street where we rehearse. So there's already probably a camera crew." And they were all talking about it. And then it was all who's going to Nashville to sign the papers. And they never went over arguing about gas money. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
yeah. And then they got the record deal. And the one guy drank himself into the hospital. And it was like, okay, y'all have to go to rehab. And they were like, nope. It just was,
Wow.
yeah, they fumbled the ball numerous
Yeah,
times.
serious.
Yeah. And then, God, some hard stuff got in the picture. And that's when it all just, one of the guys, he ended up in like the state hospital because he
Holy
was,
cow.
he was talking to Satan. He was walking around town, that guy talking to the devil. And he's one of the most talented musicians I've ever seen. While we were at the studio, the guy he, he was like, "Did anybody just realize what happened?" Because he was all nervous, and I was like, "Dude, just be yourself." We're going on the talk back, and he just started playing, and the guy was like, "We just witnessed that kid learn the Nashville number system without even knowing it and just doing it organically." He goes, "I don't think anybody really knows." I said, "No, that I would say that he's one of the best musicians. If anybody could have made it in Nashville, it was him." And the guy was like, "Dude, I want this guy in every session." And he said that was incredible, and he blew everybody out of the water. And while he was in Nashville, he was working as a cook. And I was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And then he started selling all of his gear.
Oh
And it's,
man.
but yeah, getting the right guys together is definitely the hardest. But
Yeah. Could you just 1 second? I got someone at the door real quick. But please continue. I'm gonna listen.
all
I want
right,
to hear
more stories. I'm like, I don't want to say too much because then I'll probably end up having somebody at my door wanting to have a row. I heard what you said about me. Mhm. His water heater. I'm reading a comment. People, he has coming up on 2 hours. I got you. What's up, Talbo? Like I don't know. Is there anything you want me to ask him, or if he has somebody's door, he might want to wrap up because it isn't an hour and 45. It's funny. Like I have all these questions. I guess I'll read them. See when he comes back. It says like early musical influences. At the age of 8, you picked up your grandfather's 1942 Gibson guitar. How did that experience shape your musical journey? And what significance does that guitar hold for you today if you still have it? Stuff like that. I always have questions like that. I never ask.
There you go. Sorry about that.
Everything cool?
Um, yeah, everything's great. Yeah, I just had to beat someone up real quick, and they're good. Yeah, yeah.
It says
Just kidding.
rob the pizza delivery guy.
Yeah, yeah. I saw him driving by, and I had to stop him. No. No. Sorry. What was that question that you just
Like
read?
no, I was telling people I always have like these questions, and I never ask them. But the one was just like early musical influences. I read at age 8, you picked up your grandfather's 1942 guitar, and it just like how did that experience shape your musical journey, and is that guitar still in your life?
Oh yeah, that one's gonna be in the family forever. Um, I'm a sentimental person, but only when it comes to musical instruments. Like
Uh,
I'm not like I kind of am with like cars and stuff like that too, but there's a point where you're just like, this is more of a problem than it is worth keeping because a car is pretty big,
yeah,
and takes up a lot of space and can cost a lot of money over time. But with instruments like that 42 Gibson arch top, I told my grandpa when I was 8 years old, I was like, I want to play guitar, and he's a great guitar player. He named my dad Les Paul because he loved Les Paul. Um, he actually went and saw him on his 90th birthday, and he's such a big fan. Um, but my dad ended up being a drummer and had a garage band like my entire life. He still plays in a band, and they would come over on the weekends, and they would jam and play. And I just remember thinking like, I want to play guitar. I want to play guitar. And I told my grandpa finally, and he was like, "Here, take this one." And it was it had been in the family since 57 or something like that. And it's a 1942 like war era built guitar. And it was the time when they were starting to put different metals on guitars because the war needed the steel and they needed so we were getting these nickel frets and the stuff I didn't even know I was playing on, back then. Like I had no clue. But something about that twangy arch top, just really bright, high sustained guitar. It kind of actually helped develop the way I played. The further away I get from when I picked up guitar, the more I realize it. Like that guitar really shaped the way I play and the way I learned to strum chords. And with it being such a bright guitar, like a lot of people want to play their G chord, play every single note, all 6 strings, and I don't do that. I had to learn how to kind of take away stuff on a chord to make it not so bright, you know, because it was such a bright guitar. Um, still have the guitar. It's at my grandpa's house. I was there a couple weeks ago in Arizona, and he still got it. And then my second guitar that he let me borrow was a 1967 Fender Coronado, which is a hollow body. It's got the body of a 335 and a Fender
Fender.
neck. Yeah.
Huh.
And it's got P90s. So it's got two P90s instead of humbuckers. So it's a great like rhythm lead guitar, you know. Um I still love playing that guitar. It's like it plays like a Fender. It's like effortless, you know. But that really shaped my sound, and that kind of that guitar is what kind of kicked me off in the electric world. And but you know, I kind of pride myself on playing both, you know, like I've always had really great rhythm, I think from my dad being a drummer, you know, and having a drum kit in the house, and I'd hop on the kit. Um and I always started at a really young age. I started learning how to play real percussive on acoustic. You know, lots of you know flat picking, and you know just lots of palm mutes and slaps and stuff like that on the strings. And you know, you hone that over time, and you get really good at doing the rhythmic parts and the melody and stuff like that. So, but that acoustic really shaped the way I played acoustic, and that electric really shaped the way I played electric. You know, that hollow body, you have a lot of sustain, you have a lot of notes that are going to really shine through, and then other stuff's going to be a little more dim. So you kind of learn your instrument, you know, to play around what instrument you're playing. So, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
That was a good answer. Because yeah, and I was just thinking, like, I don't think I've ever really played anything old, like
Really?
vintage wise. I mean, that's old, old. Yeah, I don't. But that was the allure of the Silver Sky, because it's, you know, meant to pick up like a '60s Fender, but it was made, you know, this year.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a cool guitar. It's really cool that it has that, you know, 63, 64 sound, Stratocaster sound. Pretty amazing. I mean, it seems like they even use the same gauge copper wiring for the coils, everything, you know. Everything seemed to be very intentional on that. Um, but yeah. Do we have any other questions in the
Uh, y- yeah, but we've been talking for 2 hours. Do you want
Oh, that's it?
to? I don't want to
I'm
keep you if
oh, I have nothing going on, but yeah, if you got something somewhere to be, I'm fine with that.
I'm trying to. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, I wanted to know, like, I guess. Well, obviously, you worked in the oil field. Now, does that, being in Colorado, you're definitely accepted in, you know, like the Texas country scene, right? Like, would you when you know, there's like the radio, and then like there's just like Nashville, and then there's like the Texas. Is that like where you would place yourself?
Yeah, I would more so say it's along those lines, style wise. A little bit of Nashville influence, but not much. Like I said, I like to kind of keep things a little more raw, you know,
Yeah,
and you get that out of Texas country a lot more, you know. You get a lot of I feel like you get a lot more of a variety of sound out of Texas country.
yeah,
You get your Cody Jinks, you know, then you got like Eli Young Band, you know, you got these more radio Nashville sounding, but it's this big broad genre in Texas country. Get a lot of really good artists out of there.
yeah. It's. I was gonna say, you probably hope to start your own revolution there in Colorado, for in Colorado country.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because the only country bands that are here, um, I'm friends with almost all of them, and we I talk to quite a bit of them, you know, like frequently, and that's one thing we're really trying to do here is, you know, I have this saying, I'm like, we're all eating a shit sandwich out here, you know, let's eat it together, you know, let's collaborate, let's talk, let's you know we also have to make a living too, right? So we
Yeah,
talk and we talk like, hey, what's your pricing right now, stuff like that, like the business side, the boring stuff. But um, I think we've really built like a good community of like other bands where it's like, oh, we can't make this gig. We got another one in a different place. So we can call up any of these bands and like, hey, can you cover for me? Because you never want to leave a venue high and dry,
Yeah.
you know. Most venues don't care too much who's playing unless like they've been asking to have you back and people have been coming in asking to have you back. Um, but like like, hey, can you come cover this? Yeah, are you guys busy tonight? Are you busy this week or whatever? And we've kind of created a little bit of a community here for the first time. And if we don't have a gig on a certain night, we'll go and make it a point to go watch another band, that we're friends with or that we don't know yet. So we can meet them and we can collaborate. And that's one of the bad things about being in a band is you don't really get to hang out with a lot of people from other bands because we're all
Yeah.
busy on.
He disappeared. He might have got a phone call. There's 70 people in here. How's there so many people in here? We like lost them. I wish there was a way to they said there was a way to pause this. But that might be on the app. I don't use the app. Loving this pod. Yeah, this was a good one. Lot of gear talk, which is like something I could talk about forever. Album's almost finished, man. Hopefully I get to talk to you on here. Yeah, dude. I'd love to talk to you. If you guys, Stephen Pell, check him out. He did a tribute album to Randy Travis, and he nails it. And he has his own music as well. But yeah. But here, maybe